All right, let's do this. Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Before we get started, a little information for yourself and the listeners. These are your trigger warnings. We're going to be talking about horror movies, horror culture, and dark things, which can involve anything from murder, rape, suicide, child abuse, F-bombs, all the messed up things. So if that sounds like something that you're not interested in, sorry to hear that. You should get some more culture in your life.
GTFO.
Yeah, right. But if you're into that sort of thing, sit down, grab some popcorn, listen to us talk about all kinds of fucked up shit. Before we get started, coming up on the calendar, let's see. Next week, we're going to be interviewing Adrian Garcia Bogliano, director of Late Phases and other such awesome works, as well as Kareem Hussein, cinematographer from Hobo with a Shotgun, as well as recently Possessor. So that should be some fun times and awesomeness. But today, we have with us the awesome Joe Davison, actor, producer, writer, all-around just maker of awesome things. Most people know him from his cameo in the Stranger Things episode as one of the control techs, but he's also writer and director of such works as 100 Tears.
As Night Falls.
As Night Falls. What was it, Experiment 7,
and
Joe?
Frostbite.
Yes, sir. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Hello. Thank you. I did it again. I did the hello thing. Hello. I don't know why. I can't help it. It's idiot, I guess. It's the weed.
Are you a fan of Futurama by any chance?
I love Futurama. Fry is like my spirit animal.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
just a hapless pizza delivery guy gets frozen in time for 500 years. I would love that to happen.
Right? I'd be okay with it.
Well,
yeah.
Wife and kids might not be too fond of that, but yeah.
I would be upset about that.
Do you have a dog? Wait.
But then I would also have a jetpack, so I'd be like, well...
Let's not bring up the dog. That's a sensitive subject.
So in this interview, we'll be asking 3 sets of questions covering your childhood, teenage years, and adulthood to find out what it is about horror that you like, sort of a psychological profile sort of thing. But it's not meant to be a therapy session, so if there are any questions you don't want to answer, you just say, I'll pass, and we'll move on.
Okay.
But starting with childhood.
And thank you. See you guys later.
Yes.
Right?
Nice talking to you.
That's on the whole interview.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Dip.
2 hours late and nothing to say.
Right. So what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Prom night. I saw the drive-in with my family. That's the scariest.
Okay.
That was at that moment. I couldn't have been. Maybe I was probably in 5th grade. Maybe.
Okay.
You know, I don't know when Prom Night came out. I remember we saw that in the theater though, or in the drive-in. So I remember I had to hide underneath the seat of the back seat. I think I hid or tried to hide under because it was so scary. I think she like cuts a dude's head off and it like slides across the floor and shit, and that's like what got me. So
that's all the good stuff.
So Prom Night. What else? Anything else?
Oh man. Yeah, Prom Night's like the first horror movie that I saw as a child that I remember that scared the shit out of me. And I specifically because we were in the drive-in and I was in my parents' car and I just remember that whole weirdness. And then I remember Carrie.
Okay.
Carrie was pretty great. I remember seeing that. But the one
Lots of blood.
The one that got me I think the most scariest one I saw as a child was probably Poltergeist.
Yes.
Yep.
I remember seeing, I mean, I was an 80s kid, man. I was born in 75, so at 10 years old, that's 1985, man. At that point, I saw some of the best movies that were ever to be made, So like, you don't, after like 88, I don't think good movies came around again until like recently, like honestly.
Yeah, you're not far off.
So, I was just this middle school, elementary school kid just watching things like Gremlins and Critters, I think may have been out then. I remember watching that.
Critters was like late 80s, early 90s.
Was it?
At least for the first
See, it's all confusing because I don't remember what I saw first because I think I've seen everything. So, well, not everything. Like, there's shit out there I haven't seen in a long time, like Doll Man 5 or whatever. But you know what I mean. So, like, but I remember as a kid that became my fascination. By fifth grade, I was already into horror films and reading Fangoria. There was 7-Eleven at the end of my street where I lived that I could walk to, and I'd walk down there and I'd spend my allowance on the Fangoria and I'd read it, and that's when I first learned about Tom Savini and who else was it back then?
Rick Baker.
Rick Baker. I want to say there was a school ad for Baker's school, maybe in the back of Fangoria. But that's just when I just, it was crazy, man. So that was my early childhood, and by fifth grade, I was ready to roll, man. So by the time I got into middle school, I was a horror kid.
Cool.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, you mentioned Poltergeist, so we've had kind of two schools of thought with this in past experiences. People bringing that up. For you, was it the tree or the clown?
Man, the clown didn't scare me. I'm not afraid of a doll. I never that
for obvious reasons. I mean,
well, true, but I never. Yeah, the clown didn't scare me. I was more intrigued by the how it worked. What got me with Poltergeist was the fact that there's ghosts in the house, and some are bad and evil, and that's got me on, got me there with the don't turn the lights off. There's a fucking ghost.
Yeah, it does kind of literally bring it home, your house can now be the thing.
I think what got me the most was the pool with the skeletons and shit.
For me, it was the pool. It was just like,
and then the tribal built on ancient rituals. Because I remember thinking don't talk to Indians for a long time. Because I was afraid of that
aspect of that movie. Yeah,
I mean, I was afraid of rituals and sacred grounds and cemeteries and pet cemeteries.
I was just going to say that. Yeah,
shook me up. That shook me up a lot. Nothing more than just seeing that bloody shoe. That's what got me there. Anyway, sorry. I feel like we have to be in specific order, and I don't want to bounce around.
No,
that happens a lot. Don't worry about
it. So. Prom night was the first one you remember. What did you love about Carrie?
Well, this might go in deeper into psyche now that I think about it, but I thought it was hot at the end when they poured the blood all over her and stuff, and she started just executing bitches in the gym. I thought that was all right, this is hot.
Do not disagree.
So I think that Carrie was. I don't know if I was more scared with Carrie than I was fascinated at telekinetic power or some shit like that, because I was reading. I mean, let's see. Carrie came out 87. I'm guessing. I don't know. I have a computer in front of me. I could look it up and sound like I'm smart as shit. I could be like, yeah, Carrie in 1986, directed by blah blah blah. Which I can't even remember who directed it right now. But I was reading comic books too, man, and all that was prevalent stuff in comic books.
Yeah.
And it just kind of I was like, wow. You could have telekinetic powers and be crazy. It's
not just for comic book heroes,
right? It's for everyone to destroy people with.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we all know if we had superpowers,
there'd be some crazy motherfuckers out there,
dude. Me for sure. First thought is rob a bank.
I would envelop all of Neo Tokyo and grow a metal arm and then grow into a giant mutant testicle baby.
That sounds about right for
you. Try not to explode on, and nuke everybody.
Well, I'll only crush this one chick named Kaori, so it's okay. She doesn't matter.
So
deep cut.
So with Carrie, you're saying
What about Tetsuo though? I thought he was.
Well, yeah, that's who I was in that. That was in that scenario.
Oh, right, yeah. 76 Carrie came out.
Yeah, I just looked that up.
Me too.
I thought it was later.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. Maybe I saw Carrie first.
Well, just because it came out earlier doesn't mean you saw it in that order.
It's true. It doesn't. Yeah, because we rented movies every weekend. We had a VCR and stuff, man. We rent 10 movies at a pop and just plow through movies all weekend.
Right. So Carrie being hot at the end, was that on the edge of your puberty type of thing, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know now because I was born in 75. This came out in 76, so I don't know when the hell I saw it. But I remember being very intrigued and thinking that was maybe not sexually hot, but like just watching the cinematography and all of it was hot to me because I started writing. Now, if you really want to get into it, I started writing in 4th grade.
Okay.
Wow.
I was writing little like 10-page short stories for my mom involving werewolves and vampires and that kind of stuff. And she thought I was a Fruit Loop. And, she just, it was just like, oh, that's nice, dear. And then she found all the Fangorias and threw all those out.
Aw.
Dude, I had some of the first, man. They're all gone.
Aww.
I remember the covers, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember what's in them, but I remember some of the covers.
It's been a while.
It's the important stuff.
Yeah. Well, one of my first was had Rawhead Rex.
Nice.
And I remember I was like, what is this creature? It looks amazing. And I read all about it. And it was years before I actually saw the movie because none of my video stores in rural Ocala knew what the fuck Rawhead Rex was.
I don't. But
No?
between the two of us, Chris is the horror fan. I'm like the psych guy. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, Rawhead Rex is a really great horror film that was shot over in, I want to say England, but I think it was actually like Scotland, maybe. And
I think a mix of the two. Yeah, it's based off a short story by Clive Barker, and it's just it's really cool and very simple. It's this creature that just rampages a countryside.
I was so excited to show my 14-year-old son this movie, and I sat down with him to watch it. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you what, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up. Now when you're like, hey, this is Ray Harryhausen, he's a claymation artist, this is what this is going to look like. When you go in expecting that, it's like, okay, that's great. But when you watch Rawhead Rex again, and you're like, wow, that lightning is like cheap. When it's like, how did they did they just like hand paint that onto the film? Like, what did they like? I don't understand.
They may have.
They may have, man. They may have. So like watching it again, and I'm like looking at my son, and then after it was over, I was just like, listen, a lot of things inspired me as a child. I can't make excuses for all of them, but this movie is dear to me. Mm-hmm. So, and he's like, that's cool. I'm going to play Fortnite. I was like,
okay. Are we done now?
Yeah.
Can I go back?
He's like, Father, son time done. Thank you. Bye.
Dope.
I'm gonna go get on my Fortnite with my buddy Hamstick 98 and go. So yeah. So Rawhead Rex, I don't know where I was going with that. Next question.
Yeah.
So you said that prom night scared you. Do you remember?
Just specifically, it's either prom night or Carrie who has the head going across the floor, and now I can't remember it because they're kind of the same. Now that I think about it,
how can I say this? Where did you go from being afraid of these things to thinking they were cool?
I never was afraid of them.
Okay.
Yeah, my childhood was interrupted very early when I was 6.
Okay.
So I never really, after that, nothing really scared me anymore.
Do you want to,
demons and fucking clowns and shit? Get out of here. Get out of my face with that shit. That's not scary. Like, even anybody who tries to I think, there's different flavors in horror, and I think I'm a very certain kind of flavor. I like horror comedy, and I like kind of over the top. I don't like bad acting. I try to get really good actors for my films. I don't pride myself on this is just a tit show. I don't want to do that. I kind of want to actually make movies and tell stories and have a good time and do it and entertain people. And I got children, and I want to make kids movies eventually someday, but I don't want to I'm not this guy in the horror world who is drawn to certain kind of horror genres, which is like gore porn kind of stuff, or that kind of. Anyway, so what was I talking about? I was drawn.
I think the point you were getting at was how you were always interested in horror and it never scared you.
Yeah, right. So I just like to make fun of it. I like to have fun with the characters. I love to create these characters that are just blow people's imaginations away. Who, of course, anyone can think of anything. I'm not saying that I'm like Captain fucking think of everything. But what I'm saying is, like, example, yesterday I was at the park with my daughters. They like to, my one daughter, Alexa, loves to dress up. She's 100% a little Joe. She is, she's got a ton of costumes. She has these doll dresses and Harlequin dresses, and her favorite doll is, she's got a doll Chucky doll that she lays with, and she's got a Chucky pillowcase and a Nike. It's ridiculous. She's 5 years old, man, and she's just into horror. And I didn't show it to her. I just got to be specific about this. I didn't show her horror films. I didn't say this is what Daddy does. If you came into our house, you wouldn't realize that I made horror films because our walls are littered with family photos. You wouldn't know it. Okay. I never showed her this. I never told her this. She got a hold of a Chucky video on YouTube one day, and out of nowhere, she came up to me and my wife, and she was like, I like Chucky. And I was like, and me immediately, I went to Chucky the doll, and my wife was like, is he in your class? And I was like, no, I think she means the serial killer, Chucky, possessed psycho toy doll.
Of course, you would jump to that.
And yeah,
of course.
And she goes, and then she's like, yeah, watch. And she brought over, and it was a scene in where he's, I don't know, with Tiffany, and they're killing something or whatever. And I was like, Alexa, you're 5 years old. You cannot watch this. And she's like, I'm not afraid of it. It's not real. And I looked at her, and I was like, you are my daughter. And, and I looked at my wife, and I said, man, I don't care. And she's like, I don't care. We're like, all right. Yeah. So, my daughter is very much this horror girl now. She watches The Twilight Zone. I caught her in my wife's bed watching an old Alfred Hitchcock episode. She's 5. She's 5, and she's watching Alfred Hitchcock.
Well, at least she's enjoying the old stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, who are you? Do you have a message from me from the past, from another director? Yeah, like, who are you?
Who are you really?
Yeah, you're not my daughter. You're some star child. So anyways, but like I said, I had a very traumatic experience at about 6.
Do you mind sharing
that
briefly?
Change, you have an aspect on life. Yeah, man. At about 3 a.m, we were woken up and by my mom, and our house was on fire.
Oh shit.
So there was my 4 sisters and myself and my mom and my dad. And what happened was my dad, he worked late, so he'd come home to make, he'd come home from work or whatever. He was making pasta or something.
Fell asleep.
Yeah. My mom had made us like hamburgers earlier. So there was a pan of grease on the stove. So he turned on the wrong burner, went to sleep. Woke up to the fucking fire alarm going off. The kitchen is engulfed in flames. He grabs the pot of water.
Oh, made it worse.
The thing of water, pan, fucking threw it on, and grease went fucking everywhere. Lit him up, almost killed him. He had 60% of his body burned.
Wow.
But that's not what. That's all a separate thing. What stopped me from being afraid of anything was the fact that the house was already on fire for like 20 minutes before we were trying to get out of it.
Oh my god!
So we had to get out of this burning house, and I remember seeing my father engulfed in flames jump out a window.
Yeah, at 6 years old, that'll do it.
And then, he got better. They said he'd never walk again or use his legs or his arms or his hands. And then, like 2 years later, man, that motherfucker was back working in the warehouse.
Huh.
And it was cool, man. They said he'd never get his hair back. He had black hair, and his hair came back silver, thick. Like he made this pompadour out of it now and shit.
Jesus.
Like, so that after like witnessing all that shit kind of at 6 years old, and it was very like slow motion-y to me, you know what I mean? I was like, nah, man, there ain't nothing worse than fire. Like, there's nothing worse than fire.
Yeah.
So nothing that, and do you believe in ghosts? Do you not believe in ghosts? What is the real factor? Who knows? Nobody knows.
Wow. I just realized this is kind of a literal real life interpretation of this joke I always make to try and, lighten the mood or make things seem better. Like when you're having a shitty day.
Yeah, don't throw water on a grease fire.
No. I say, if you go through life expecting the worst, you're pleasantly surprised around every corner. Like, for instance, I didn't wake up on fire today, so it's a good day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Every scary thing or, creepy graphic thing in a horror movie is fine because I didn't wake up and my house wasn't on fire. Right. So there you go. By comparison, it's not that bad.
And it's not, man. It's not. And, that was the first time I faced death and fire head on. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I made a challenge that day to myself when I remember it all so vividly, man. I remember like being held by the firemen. One of the firemen had me, and I remember looking back at the fire and I was like, you're never going to get me, and, that was the first time crazy shit like that happened.
Were there others?
Yeah.
Like what?
And at 25, I think, no, it wasn't 25. Let's see. It was 2002. I was married. I just finished this movie. In fact, oddly enough, it was my first time working with Tom Savini. He and I played detectives together.
Oh, yeah, Unearthed.
Mm-hmm. And I was coming back. I lived in England. They flew me back to finish the movie. And my wife was stationed overseas at Lakenheath Air Force Base. My wife at the time. Mm-hmm. And then they flew me back. I came back. We finished the movie. We had a little wrap party. We're coming home from the wrap party. We were driving. I was in the back. I was in the back passenger seat, and the director was in the passenger seat, and this other kid was driving. He was hauling ass, man. I don't know, doing about 80 miles an hour, and a turn came up on this dirt road, and we went straight, and we hit a oak tree the size of a truck at about 86 miles an hour.
Huh.
And it almost ripped the Volkswagen in half, and it slammed me against the back of the passenger seat. I debolted the seat from the floorboard. I shoved Craig into the dashboard as the airbag was going off. I cracked 3 of his ribs. I destroyed the inside of the car, put my left leg through the console, and put the gear shift into the radio. I had to get like 3 stitches in my kneecap because of that. 3 stitches, dude. They cut off my favorite pair of jeans.
You got out lucky.
They cut off. Yeah. No, I'm not done. They cut off my favorite pair of jeans to put those 3 fucking stitches on. I was like, yo, these are my favorite jeans. Okay, cool. I could have taken them off. But what happened was I had hit the back of the passenger seat with such force that I spiral fractured my humerus bone and crushed my radial nerve and had no use of my arm. Oof. It was dead. And I got taken to the hospital ambulance, and I was out of it, and finally a doctor came into me. He goes, can you feel that? And I was like, no. He's like, how about that? I was like, no. And he's like, look at your hand. I looked down. He had a fucking needle the size of like, I don't know, a pen sticking in the top of my hand. He goes, you can't feel that? I was like, no. He goes, you have what's called dead hand. I was like, that sounds...
It's a nice technical metaphor for it.
I said, that sounds great. He goes, yeah, you crushed your radial nerve and you have a spiral fracture. He showed me x-rays. I didn't even know they did x-rays. He showed me x-rays. It looked fucking gross. And he goes, the only way I can tell that if you're ever going to use your hand again is if I cut open your arm and look at your radial nerve. I was like, do whatever the fuck you got to do, doc.
Yeah, I was going to say at that point, it's like, you know what? Can it fix it? Yeah, do it.
So I get out of surgery. I wake up. My hand's not working. It's all fucking in a thing, and it's all fucked up. And I'm all fucked up. And I had over 300 stitches in my left arm. That
wow.
Yeah, from my elbow to my shoulder, they had to open my arm up to look at my radial nerve because that's where I crushed it. I crushed it on the outside of my right arm as I hit the back of the passenger seat because that's what I used to protect myself. I knew I was like, I'm gonna launch at 1,000,000 miles an hour here in a second. So I adjusted to hit the back seat like a linebacker.
Okay.
Because I didn't have my seatbelt on. And here's where the creepy fucking shit comes in. This is like the fire. I'm sitting in the back seat. We're almost to Craig's house. We're almost there. We got like one turn to make, which we didn't make, and then like we're at his house. I hear this voice go, "Put your seatbelt on." It was so vivid, I turned and looked at the passenger seat because I thought maybe I forgot somebody was next to me. And I looked and I was like, what? And I looked back ahead and the driver and Craig were laughing, and I watched him floor it, and he's just hauling ass. And I remember looking at the speedometer, it was over 80 miles an hour, and I hear, "Put your seatbelt on." And I looked again, and I had time to I remember I went to reach for it, and I was like, why? We're almost home. And I didn't. And then I see the car go off the road, and I just saw that tree come into the headlights. And I had enough time to let go of the seatbelt and adjust to the impact. And I remember those words and that voice to this day, "Put your seatbelt on."
Hodor.
So I say it every time I get in the car now. Every time to everybody. My wife hates it because she fucking hates wearing a seatbelt. And I was like, I'm like, "Put your seatbelt on." I'm not going to say it again because you're not going to hit a tree at 80 miles an hour and survive. Again, that only happens once. So yeah, so that, you know, when that was the second time I faced death, I felt, you know what I mean? Like, because the first time was the fire. We're all in the house, the fire, it's engulfed. The smell of human flesh burning is something you'll never want to experience. And then,
especially if someone you love.
Yeah. Or the chance that you're going to be next.
True.
You know?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when you were talking earlier, I was wondering whether or not, I can't remember the phrasing you used, but I was wondering if you were more afraid for yourself or for your father because of, you know, based on what you said you saw.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I was afraid for him. I don't remember feeling afraid. I remember feeling attacked by the fire. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably more of an adrenaline kind of thing, especially if you're that young. All you can think of is the simple impulse of,
holy shit.
This is,
I don't know, man. I can still describe the living room to you as it engulfed in flames.
I imagine so.
You know? But I don't remember I just remember being like wanting to like fight something. Like the fire. You know, like, how dare you come in my house and fucking try to attack us? I took it as like a personal threat. I always have. Me and fire don't get along.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you felt about Freddy.
Yeah, I love the Nightmare on Elm Street. I do. I have a hard time trying to understand where they're going with him because it was meant to be scary and the winner was supposed to be Nancy, but really who came out on top was Freddy, and somehow we're idolizing a pedophile because he's supposed to be like a pedophile, and you know, that was something that got kind of dropped, or it's really like misconstrued, like he wasn't a pedophile. The parents just overreacted and fucking set him on fire, and now he's coming back to kill all their kids, which then makes him a child murderer to proclaim his innocence of being a pedophile.
Better there.
So,
like, I think they had the idea of his character, and they were like, yeah, he's going to be a badass, and it's going to be cool, and people are going to, you know, identify with the villain more because he's cool and evil, but also cool. And then, like, after the fact, someone retconned, also he killed and may have molested children. Like, all right, we can still put that in there.
All right,
but he's still going to be
you
cool.
got this crazy lunatic
we'll deal with it later.
who takes a school bus full of children to kill them and molest them, and then they kill him, and he comes back in their nightmares to kill their other children, and somehow he's the good guy?
He makes puns. That's why.
All right, sold. Let's do it. Write it up.
He makes the puns.
What's that thing on YouTube? Shit.
Pitch meeting.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally a pitch meeting.
Totally.
Yes. Barely any inconvenience.
Yeah, it's, you know, so I mean, Freddy's cool, man. I really dig the ideas of where they're going, you know, with Robert Englund specifically, what he does with Freddy. Not so much the remake, which I don't know why you would fucking make remakes. I don't understand. I can't even. I want to break my desk when I start talking about remakes because it doesn't make any sense. Now that being said, I will stab a motherfucker to direct the next Friday the 13th.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a reboot. That could be a continuation.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, well, I already wrote it, so I just need to get Sean and Victor to stop fighting.
Okay, so if you've written Friday the 13th, let me ask you, how many lawn implements does Jason use?
None.
No, really, no weed whackers, no pitchforks. I mean, he does at least use the machete.
Yeah,
right?
he pulls a machete. He picks up a machete that somebody tries in my script. Someone tries to use a machete on him, and he picks it up, and that's what he uses for the rest of the movie. But he also has other things he uses, like his sheer power and the fact that trees will kill you, and like he has feet that can stomp your face into the floorboard of the cabin, and he can pick up a bed and hit you with it. He can slam your face into a door 1,000 times.
Okay,
he doesn't need to kill you with weapons.
Dark Friday the 13th, less campy.
Yeah, no camp, no camp. This is like what Freddy versus Jason, but without the Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
This is Jason's. I don't want to. Oh, it doesn't matter. It'll never get made, so who fucking cares?
Someday, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I doubt it. But in my script, what happens is I bring back every character that's still alive, including Kevin Bacon's character. Well, I bring Kevin Bacon back, who dies the same way with an arrow through his neck, and then he kind of has a little one-off at the camp. That's the only campy part in the whole movie, where he's just like, "Come on." And then he dies.
Not again.
Yeah, not again. And then he dies. Only because real fans would be like, that's hysterical. And that's what I love about the show.
Yeah.
The kids are going to love it.
Yeah. It'll be great. For kids. Yeah. Nice. Hudsucker Proxy.
Yeah. Deep cut.
Yeah. I can't believe I know the name of that movie.
When you were a kid watching this horror stuff, you mentioned that your parents had gone to see Prom Night in the drive-in, and you guys would rent movies all weekend. Were your parents horror fans? Or anybody in your family?
Man. They were not. They were outside barbecue kind of people.
Okay.
And I was not. So I would rent movies, and I would watch movies and read comic books and draw and write while they were outside with all their friends having barbecues and stuff.
Okay.
They didn't really make me do any of that stuff if I didn't want to. You know what I mean? I don't want to sit outside in the fucking heat all day. What are you, out of your mind? I'm 9 years old. I'm not going to fucking drink a beer.
Right. Well,
I mean, I did.
Especially not a warm one.
Right. Yeah. Give me that Coors cold, Dad.
Give me a cold one?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Ain't no son of mine drinking a cold beer.
Right.
What?
So let's see. So you did have family relation that was into horror. You were initially scared, but that got broken pretty quickly because of what happened when you were 6.
Yeah.
Did you participate in Halloween?
Bring it up. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was something my mom was into. My mom was really into Halloween. Well, all the holidays. It was like her personal mission to like prove that she was better than everybody else for all the holidays. So the house became, a Christmas haven, and at Halloween it was every decoration in the yard, and but it wasn't macabre or scary. It was like goofy, but what was great about 80s decorations was those bright oranges and those, those old style Frankenstein masks. And that's really what was like nostalgic for me. Was thinking back on it now was like, man, I wish I had thought better then. Because that shit was really
hold on to some of it.
Yeah, well, she still has all of it. She has all that shit in her house in Alaska. She's got all of it.
Oh,
nice.
Okay. Yeah, now that I think about that.
Hey, Mom.
I'm going to have to call Mommy today. Right after this.
Did you have a favorite costume when you were a kid?
Sorry. No, I did not.
Listen, if you don't have to mute yourself for it, I'm gonna stop muting myself now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
least favorite costume.
No, I don't have one, man. I didn't. We did kind of like pretty elaborate costuming. We'd come up with an idea, spaceman, and then my mom would make it like I was literally working for NASA. So it was like, I had a lot of really cool costumes, and I don't think I had a favorite. I don't, I'm trying to remember them now. My most favorite costume is what I built for my daughter 2 years ago, when she was still in like a car carrier. She had this front, I don't know, backpack I could wear, and she could sit in it, like we go to the mall and shit. And I built an entire mech costume around it.
Yes.
So I could be in the costume and it looked like she was driving the mech.
I've seen a couple people do this.
And I made it pink and shit. I had jetpacks on it and rocket launchers and fucking dude. My wife was like, "Is this for you or her?" And I was like, "Yes."
Right? Yes is the answer to that question.
Yes. Inclusive order.
Yeah, because it took me like a month to build it, man. And it was just in the garage. And she's like, "What is this?" I said, "It's a robot." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's a mech, really. You ride it. You drive it." She's like, "You're driving it?" I said, "No, Alexa is." She's like, "She's too young to drive it." I said, "Well, it's made out of..." She
doesn't even have a license.
I was like, "It's made out of cardboard." Like, right. So.
And did I hear you right when you were saying this? Did you say it was pink?
It was pink. I painted it pink for her.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like it was old school. It was like post-apocalyptic pinky. Pink. It had some pink undertones, and I had like bunnies drawn on it and shit because I'm really into like that.
Awesome.
That post-apocalyptic bubble gum. I call it like bubblegum post-apocalyptic because it's like all bright and colorful, but yet the world's ending or over and nuclear. But it's cool.
Right.
I love it. It's a great.
But I can still be a girl.
Yeah.
Did you have a particular love of dressing up, or is it? How can I say this? No, man. I didn't get into acting until after high school. Okay. I guess what I'm trying to understand at this point is, so there was, like prom night, for example, you said you were scared when you first saw that because you were hiding under the car seat.
Yeah.
And then you had this thing at 6 that basically, wisened you up and had something horrific happen. And after that, horror didn't scare you, but I'm also wondering how you.
No, I didn't say horror didn't scare me. I said nothing scared me.
Understood.
Yeah.
I meant to say that horror is a subset of the fact that nothing scared you.
Yeah.
But how did you then go from not being scared of it to loving it? That piece is missing for me.
That would all be put together by this dude. His name is Sam Raimi. And I saw a movie called Evil Dead.
Okay.
And it was horror and comedy. And it was kind of the first one I ever saw like it. And it had already been out for a long time. I'd heard about it. I never saw it. I saw it in Fangoria. I saw Raimi's name a lot, Bruce Campbell's name a lot. I didn't know any of these people. Just like Savini, his name was everywhere. I didn't know. I never saw anything with him in it yet, though. Other than Night of the Living Dead 2, Dawn of the Dead. It's a whole nother movie. It's not even part 2. It's Dawn of the Dead. I sound like an idiot right now. I'm an idiot. But I just took a really big bong hit, so all is forgiven. So anyway, Rami introduced me to the fact that you could like mix the genres, which is kind of something I was doing anyways in my own style, because I was doing I was just writing these crazy ass ridiculous stories, and they were like kind of funny and overly dramatically bloody, and I didn't. When I saw Evil Dead, I was like, "This is where I belong."
How old were you when you saw saw Evil Dead?
Like 9th grade, so 14, 15 maybe.
Because I remember I think you said you were in 4th grade when you were starting to write the stories and sharing them with your mom.
Those are a little bit more, childlike, 10-page little short stories about Dracula or a werewolf or a witch or something. They weren't really that. I mean, come on.
I understand that, but
I didn't really get into the understanding of, context and shit like that until way later. Until I was like 35.
Oh, no Hero's Journey?
No. Yeah, I didn't really understand reading till like last week. Like,
what are these letters? What are these symbols on this page?
Yeah, I'm still trying to understand how the English language works for real. Like,
No,
this word is awesome.
where I was going with that is so you had the thing at 6, 4th grade would have been after that. So you had already started writing, and some of it was related to horror, although, like you say, kind of maybe goofy. And then you saw Evil Dead, which made you realize, oh, wait a minute, you could actually have a career doing this, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the next one I saw about the same, because I saw Evil Dead, like I said, about a freshman, so that would have been like 92 maybe. So in 94, this movie comes out by this dude who had made a movie that I saw years before that called Meet the Feebles, which was like this really crazy puppet movie out of New Zealand. So this dude comes out with a movie called, over here it's called Dead Alive.
Dead Alive.
In Europe and everywhere else, it's called Brain Damage. I don't know why the fuck they changed the name.
Was it Brain Damage or Brain Dead?
Brain Dead. Brain Dead and then Dead Alive here.
Yeah.
There are 2 versions, which I didn't know about this until I was in the video store. One is full on, all the extreme gore, and the other one is a way toned down, all that gore is cut out. I rented the super over the top gory one. I didn't know no difference. Didn't know. And the reason why I'm saying it like this is because at the same time, I realized that there was this other movie next to it, and it was called Evil Dead 2, which I didn't know existed. Now, remember, I live in Ocala. It's a real rural country part of Florida. There's horses, and that is it. So my video store having any kind of new horror was like, you had to get there at 9 a.m. because it was going to be gone.
Of course.
So anyways, so somehow I got Evil Dead 2 and Dead Alive the same night. I watched those movies I kept up those for like 3 weeks because I watched them every day. Every day. I just had the privilege actually to show my wife Dead Alive. Yeah. So that's a big step in our marriage, just so you know.
Did it go better than the thing with your son?
Yeah, well, about the same. About the same.
That's nice, dear.
Well, yeah, what I love is she's like, oh wow, that's a lot of intestines. I'm like, yeah, like, isn't it awesome? And she's like, yeah,
like very frankly, like that. Like, oh, that's a lot of intestines.
And then she'll get up, and I'll go in the bedroom. I'll be like, what are you reading? She's like, okay, this mom, she was drunk, took all her kids in the car, and drove into a lake. And I'm like, this is what fascinates you? I was like, I just showed you an hour and a half awesome movie, and you weren't even stunned. She's like, this is real. And I was like, you love some crazy shit. She's like, I know. This one's about a little boy who got burned alive by his dad. I was like, stop reading those. Because I'll be laying in bed and she'll just be like, listen to this. This dad cut this boy's arm off. And I'm like, why are you reading these fucking medical stories? Because she works at the hospital. My wife works at the hospital.
Okay.
So she used to work in the ER and she's an EMT and she's done some like field surgery and that kind of shit. And now she works overnights and, which is tough, man. Cause she works like 12 hours a day, it's like these shifts are out of control. And sometimes she's got like 9 in a row.
Yep.
And you're just like, all right, I'll see you next month.
Yep.
Cause I'm up all day and sometimes I'm not even home. Sometimes I'm gone for 2 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so she's really into these real life horrible tragedies, and it drives me. I can't listen to them because I get nightmares. That's what gives me nightmares. Fucking real life bullshit that parents do to their kids. Oh yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, that's a whole different kind of horror.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Where were we?
That's what I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think I'm still trying to remember how we got from.
I guess I was connecting when I started writing between the horror films and my horrible childhood.
No, I got this. I think it was Steve was asking about when your interest in everything horror began. And you said it was probably around the time of Evil Dead. But
yeah, it was like 94. It was like as I was getting out of high school, I started to develop my writing skills.
And here's where we lost Joe for a couple minutes. Then his internet came back and we picked up where we left off. Well, you went from Evil Dead 2 into creative writing, and your teacher pissing you off.
Oh, wow. You didn't get any of that?
No.
Oh, man. Good. Thank God. I don't want to hear that shit anyways.
In summation, Joe had a teacher who was a bitch in creative writing class. She said his work sucked, and we're all planning on going to her grave and dumping a box of stuff onto her open casket.
Yeah, that's a good idea. There we go. Is this the grave of Mrs. Brown?
Well, anyway, I wanted to go back before that anyhow, because I mean, what you're basically talking about here is that in high school, you discovered a couple things like Evil Dead 2 and Dead Alive.
Yeah.
And this experience with a teacher that pushed you into being a better writer.
Yeah.
However, you were already writing and already interested in horror before that.
I was interested in, I didn't know it at the time, man, but I was really a cinephile, man. I watched movies. My whole life was Friday, getting up to the video store and checking out whatever I hadn't seen or any of the new stuff that had come in. So I'm not kidding. I would leave with maybe 10 VHS, tapes, just stacked under my chin. And then I would just sit in my room from the moment I got back to the house till Sunday night and watch everything I rented. And my youngest brother was very much into Kung Fu. So he would get all the Kung Fu stuff. And I was getting all the horror stuff. So we'd like trade off. He'd give me like a Kung Fu movie, American Ninja 12 or whatever. And I'd be like, these are dumb. And he's like, this is stupid. But she ain't never go. How do you get killed by that? I was like, how's he fight 9 guys at a time? So, it was, that was my life. And really what that bred me was becoming a scriptwriter, because I was watching everything. I was watching, action films, I was watching Kung Fu movies. I was watching horror films. I was watching, international movies that didn't make any sense to me. But I didn't know anything. There was no one else like me in my high school. I didn't have, I had some friends. They were like into like Biohazard and shit or whatever. I was like more into movies than I was into music. And and that's all I wanted to do. And I didn't have a lot of friends who liked to just sit and watch movies.
Okay. So as a cinephile, you're saying you were interested in like you say, all kinds of movies, not just horror.
Yeah. But horror is a big part of my life. It is the biggest part. And
that's what I'm trying to tease out, is try to figure out why horror.
Oh man. I don't know, man. It's just the most fun. It's the most enjoyable outside of animation to watch. Comedies are great. I don't want to watch a drama. I don't give a fuck about dramas. I don't care. Oh, you got problems? Yeah, welcome to the real world, bitch. Don't cry about it. At least you get a diamond ring out of it and a beautiful sunset at the end of the movie. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I don't like dramas. Romantic comedies are kind of fun. I directed one called Mr. Engagement, but it's not really my cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like, I love comedy, yes. Chris Farley. I would have loved to have put Chris Farley in a horror film. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been fucking spectacular.
Yeah, I don't think he was ever in any
horror never films. Was.
That's a fucking missed opportunity right there.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
but anyway, so that's what I think what drew me to the horror was the mysticism of it all. There's a lot more into horror than there is to any other genre, because horror leads to ghosts and goblins, to supernatural entities, to angels and demons, because that's all considered horror. It's thriller, serial killers, and it's, that unknown, and you don't get that with anything else. A comedy is pretty straight and dry. So's a drama. So's a romance movie. A Hallmark film is like, you call that shit in the first 5 minutes. Oh, he's going to fuck that dude's wife and they're going to get married and he's going to cry. Sold, done. You know what I mean? And like, in horror, you can go anywhere you want with it. And it's still, it still doesn't lose its genre. You couldn't bring, I guess if you You can't do it. Make a comedy about a guy whose son gets possessed by a demon. It's now a horror film.
Yeah.
You can't.
I mean, you have.
It's the largest sub.
I thought you were going to say make a comedy with angels and demons, and I was just going to drop Dogma.
No. I was going to say but even you have horror it is such a subgenre. It could go into any subcategory.
Right.
Comedy. Throw horror in there. Horror comedy. Romance. Horror romance. Can it be done? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it can.
Life After Beth.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Warm Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
There's a TV show, I think, too.
Yeah, Santa Clarita Diet. That's kind of like a romantic horror.
It kind of is, yeah.
Hey, I love that show.
So
horror. It's a. I don't know, man. I'm just drawn to it. I just am.
Well, the two things that horror and comedy, the two things that horror and comedy both have in common are, I don't want to say they're extreme, although that's also sometimes true, but it's the excitement of crossing a boundary.
It's tragedy.
It can be.
It is. Because think about funny moments, even in Anchorman. The funniest moments is when he's stabbed in the leg, crying in a phone booth. Those are all tragedies.
Well, what's exciting about them, like I say, it's the crossing of the boundary, whether it's a positive violation of a positive or a negative, it's still a violation, and it's the unexpected that makes the shock. Now you can laugh at it or you can be scared of it, but either way it's a shock. And what I'm wondering if I'm going back to your experience with the fire, because you said you were kind of like a fight or flight mode.
Sounded to me like
you were
fight.
Challenged.
Yeah, I wasn't.
That's
running.
what I'm saying.
I mean, I was being carried, but I wasn't
right.
afraid.
But you wanted to fight it.
I wanted to extinguish it. Yeah.
Right. And I'm wondering if there's some sort of adrenaline rush tie-in there. Maybe, maybe not. I'm just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, no, that's my everyday life, man. That's my now that you're saying it.
What, throwing shit at the wall or the adrenaline?
Totally. My house is covered
rush?
in shit. It smells like fucking ass in here.
Need to get better weed.
Trust me.
No, it's the good stuff that smells like ass, bro.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
No, I just kind of have that I don't know, man. In my everyday life, I kind of look at life I try to teach my kids this same aspect that you're never going to accomplish anything if you let fear stand in your way. And there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of, man, because you can either look at it and run away from it, or you can look at it and take it head on. And that's how I feel about everything, man. I feel about everything that way. I would not be as far as I am right now if I don't look at everything as if I'm going to conquer it, including women, all of them, every woman.
Gotta clarify that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but seriously, I tell my kids that. My daughter was afraid. We went to this new park, and you kind of had to climb up this little ladder and go into this little bubble and then up this bridge, and you could go down this slide. It's really fucking cool. Very space age. But it was only big enough for one kid at a time, and it was a little high, and she didn't want to do it. And I walked her up over to it, and she didn't want to do it. And I said, baby, it's just a ladder. It just goes right up there. Look, it goes from there to there, and all these kids are doing it. No, Daddy. All right, why don't you go swing for a little bit? She comes back, and I see her looking at it. I see, you want to go up? And she's like, no. And I said, Alexa, the only way you're going to find out how fun that is if you crawl up that ladder and do it yourself, because no one's going to do it for you. And the only way you're going to get to see how fun that is to conquer your fear of this ladder. And I walked away and I sat down for a minute and I watched her go swing on this little thing. And she came back and I watched her go up that ladder and down that slide on her own. Mm-hmm. And then she came up to me and she goes, I did it. I said, I saw you. Mm-hmm. She's like, yeah, I'm not afraid. I said, don't be afraid of I was like, don't be afraid of anything. I said, there's nothing to be afraid of. Because, things can only hurt you if you don't react.
Mm.
And that's my life. That's how I've done it, man. The car accident, the fucking, I had a gun
Is it
pulled
the
on
thrill of
me.
the challenge?
No, man. It's not. There's not a challenge. What do you mean? Challenge for what? Writing? I mean, I just sit and write. That's not a thing, I go out and I get investors and I get my movies made and, I bring people together and make feature films and I talk to whoever I need to get it done. None of that scares me. I have an autistic daughter. She's adopted and she has an ADA therapist who comes here, which is an at-home therapist. And she comes in and, where was I going with this?
Lack of fear?
Anxiety. She goes, well, everybody suffers from anxiety. I said, I don't. And she's like, you never get anxious? I said, no, why? I said, I'm either going to do the thing I'm looking at or I'm not. There's no reason to be afraid of it. I said, I got on stage, my improv troupe opened for Dave Chappelle in front of 30,000 people.
Wow.
I said, so? We were there. We did it. Wasn't no anxiety about it. It was awesome.
I'd say that probably had a good hand in your lack of anxiety about just anything. Public speaking really helps with that.
Yeah, too. Yeah, I do that a lot too, But I don't. I try to bestow this upon my children to say, don't. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's at night in the dark, nothing. I mean,
do you think you already felt that way before the fire?
I don't know. I don't remember much before the fire. I was 6.
Fair.
I remember the fire. That took a good portion of my memory.
Yeah. Understandably.
The weed has erased the rest of it.
See, I have a theory about that. I don't think it erases it. It just buries it under piles of resin. And you got
it's true. I'll scrape it every once in a while. Be like, oh, there it is. I told you I had a memory of me on a slide.
Aha!
Yeah. So, I don't, the horror stuff, I don't know, man. I don't know. I love it. It's something that I feel is fun. It's fun to get in and act in those scenes. It's fun to get blood sprayed on you. It's fun I think because it's so far out of reality that it is, for me, that it's fun. It's not going to happen. I don't think a real ghost is going to come in your house and strangle you to death.
Well, no, because they're spectral and they can't interact with physical things. I mean,
yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have? Is there a chance of a murderer breaking into your house? Yeah, but it's small. Yeah. It's small, and Daddy's here, and I got guns. So,
All right. So let's jump forward into teenage years and just run through some of the stuff.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned Dead Alive, Evil Dead 2. What other stuff jumped out at you in your teenage years as being impacting?
Like as far as any kind of influences, positive or negative, into your interest in anything horror?
Let's see, teenage years. Let's see.
Probably all the slashers. I mean, if that was
it was all that. It was the 90s. I was a teenager, so it was bad horror films were coming out.
Yeah,
the 90s didn't have good horror. They had Scream, which everyone's like, he's an icon. I'm like, fuck that bitch. He ain't no icon. Get the fuck off this page with Freddy and Jason.
I mean, of the 90s horror films, that was probably one of the better ones. There was a lot of hot trash.
There was some horrible movies. Yeah. But movies that really that I enjoyed the most were things like, I mean, I'm a John Carpenter fan, all the way through Big Trouble in Little China to The Thing, all of it, man. His music is crazy and wacky and I love him. I love Tremors, man. Tremors is one of my favorite horror comedy action movies. That's the kind of shit I want to make, where it's a little bit of action, a little sexy. There's a girl in her panties. There's some giant monster trying to eat you. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what I want to do. It's fun. It touches on all subjects. You can have heroes. You can have an anti-hero. You can build, your monster can be your hero. Whatever the fuck, that's Critters. Those movies were fun to me.
Did you, by high school, I think you had even said in high school you didn't have a group of friends yet that liked horror too?
Not really, man. I had a couple friends of mine. I realized how different we were when I got all my friends together to introduce them to this new movie that I watched that I thought was fucking hysterical, and every one of them hated it. And
Dead
that
Alive?
was no. It was So I Married an Axe Murderer, and
they didn't like that.
no, they hated it.
Harriet,
Every
Sweet
one
Harriet.
of them. I ordered this big cappuccino. The woman. No, yeah, they hated it, man. They hated all of it. And I remember like that was my 8th grade. When was that? 9th. I don't know. Fucking it doesn't matter. At that point I only had like 2 friends left. I didn't really have a lot of friends. Because I didn't really socialize outside of school. I lived way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere. It took a car to go anywhere I wanted to go. So I didn't really have a lot of friends. I had movies. That's what I had,
Yeah, Florida's pretty bad about that. Large swaths of Florida are.
Yep.
There's no public transportation, and if you don't have a car, that's it.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Trailer parks.
There's lots of palmetto.
There is lots of that.
Palmetto bugs.
And lots of those.
Yeah.
You guys are naming all the great qualities Florida has to offer.
It's also hot, and there are
Right.
assholes here.
There's sharks and alligators.
Mosquitoes. Yeah.
You got alligators on the inside and sharks on the outside.
And mosquitoes in the air.
Tangents. Where were we?
Yep.
Sorry.
So you mentioned the car crash. That was later on in your adults. Did you have any, real life fucked up shit happen in your teens?
No, man.
Not like you needed to.
No,
Right.
I didn't. My teens were pretty. They were horrible because we were poor, and I didn't have all the cool clothes and all that kind of shit. But that's like materialistic bullshit. But at the time, it was important. No, man. I was a sophomore when I moved out. My parents moved away, and I stayed in Ocala to finish high school.
Okay.
As like what's the word? Emancipation?
No, they just left and I stayed. I didn't separate or anything. I had a very good friend of mine I worked with, and she had a room, and her daughter also went to high school, and I was good friends with her. So she was like, why don't you just move in here and finish high school here, and your parents can go where the fuck they're going. And I said, all right. So that's what happened. Well, yeah, 95, I met a group out of Newport Richey called the Sidewalk Cracks. They were a sketch comedy troupe, and that was my first ever real delve into comedy, was doing sketch writing. The Sidewalk Cracks. That was 95, and I was with them for a couple years, and then that led me to Tampa. So I had a lull in there I don't think I talked about between like high school and Tampa, which was a sketch comedy troupe called the Sidewalk Cracks. I was young. I was like 18, 19. I did that till I was like 22 or something. Came to Tampa, did the Beat the Dead Horse. Then I went to Chicago. I did a couple of movies in there, in between there too. I was flown to Miami to shoot a movie right before I left for Chicago, and then I went to Chicago, came back, started Caffeine Kids. In there, I was writing scripts. Somewhere in there, I was making short films, and then in 2001, I did Unearthed. 2003, I was married. I went to England. I made 4 films in England. Yeah, and then in 2007, I moved back to Tampa, and I started the Tampa Film Network. Me and Chris Woods, who's another filmmaker. We started the Tampa Film Network together. And then the Tampa Film Network just recently changed its names to the Florida Film Network. And we got 50,000 members now or some shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
We've actually talked to Chris Woods.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's cool people.
So this 95, the Sidewalk Cracks sketch group.
Yeah.
That was in Ocala?
No, that was in Newport Richey.
Okay.
They were out of Newport Richey. I was in between Tampa. I was at Tampa then. But we did it in Newport Richey.
But you guys were making a living doing that?
No, man. That was shit. We got together on the weekends, and we got together during the week. We wrote our sketches, and then we shot them on Saturday and Sunday. editing them. We'd shoot one on, shoot as many as we could on Saturday, edit them that night, shoot as many as we could on Sunday, edit them, because they aired every Monday night on TCI Cable Channel 5 at 10 o'clock. And it got to a point where we couldn't really go anywhere. I couldn't go to the grocery store because people were starting to recognize us as the Sidewalk Cracks. Because I was doing shit before Chris Farley, on public access. I was already, my goal was to get to SNL, really, in the end of it. I wanted to be on SNL by the time I was 25.
Okay.
I wanted 3 films in SNL by the time I was 25, and I had 3 films in Second City. So I was pretty close.
Yeah.
I was pretty close to my goal. And then I came back and I started another improv troupe. So Sidewalk Cracks, Beat the Dead Horse, Charming Hooligans, Caffeine Kids. Those are all my sketch improv troupes.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, with that part of it, you definitely take a different trajectory, shall we say, compared to any of the other people we've talked to. That's interesting. Let me look through the teen questions real quick to see if we missed anything there.
Halloween. Favorite costume, least favorite costume.
Just going to say that, yeah.
Maybe we did that.
We did that for childhood, but we didn't really talk about it in your teen years.
Yeah, I didn't dress up in my teens.
No.
Did more parties?
No. I don't drink. No.
Okay.
Well, and he said he lived out in the boonies and didn't really, have a car, so.
Well, it's that much more time you can spend just watching horror movies.
Yeah, I didn't dress up. I didn't really. I'm not a cosplayer, man. I don't feel the need to, even as an actor. I don't want to dress up at home. I don't have that need. I want to be a character. I will audition as a character. I will act as a character, but I don't want to dress up and go to conventions as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't want to do that shit. I don't want to. I have no need for it. I don't feel like. I don't yeah. So, my daughters love. I dress them up for Halloween. Halloween, we dress up all together as a theme. We try to do a theme, the whole family. That's fun. But that's because that's my family and it's a theme, and my kids are involved. That's different.
Yeah.
No,
I'm kind of the same way. I don't mind acting out a role, but I had a bad experience in my childhood that turned me off to costumes and dressing up.
Ooh.
And so, yeah, I'll do the acting part, but I'm not a fan of a costume.
Yeah.
In the interest of saving some time, we cut about 7 minutes here. There wasn't really anything that was said here that isn't said elsewhere in the call. We just took the time to try to hammer out the order in which those things happen, because sometimes the order in which things happen is important. However, in this case, it wasn't. The bottom line is just that Joe was very involved in the comedy scene for about 15 years, and comedy is just a very, very important thing in his life. Normally, I try to make the edits in such a way that you can't even tell that they happened, but to be completely honest, there was nothing I can do here that wasn't completely obvious. It is what it is. So, putting this here to let you know what happened, and we'll pick up and move on. Okay, so now that we're in adulthood, you moved to NPR and then, NPR. Sorry, Newport Richie. For those who aren't around Florida,
not the radio station, the place.
Yes. Then moved to Tampa, doing a lot of improv stuff. Were you still, getting your horror fix, shall we say, around this time, or had you drifted away from horror and then came back to it? What happened there?
No, I was still doing my horror stuff, man. I was still writing horror screenplays, and I was still watching horror movies, and now it all makes sense. I created this sketch about Happy the Clown, who was tries to do a kids party, and then eventually ends up ripping this dude's intestines out and shit, and trying to make medals with those. So now I kind of see where Gertie comes from.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was still kind of doing my horror stuff. But the comedy really took over a good decade, I think. Between doing the improv and then going to Second City and then coming back and having my own troupe at the improv in Ybor. And then I was teaching improv in Orlando at the Improv in Orlando. I was opening up for a couple guys, Bobby Slayton, Kevin Pollak.
Setting that aside for a minute, going back to horror stuff that you were a fan of, not necessarily what you were creating. What kind of stuff was coming out in that time frame that you were a fan of?
Who fucking knows? I don't remember. Back then, in the 90, let's say that's 2000. Oh my God, dude. When did I do all of this? I got married in 2003. So it had to be between 95 and 2003. I did all of that. And then when I got back in 2007, I did some more improv. I still do improv. So what was the question? Sorry. I'm trying to think. Who fuck knows?
What kind of horror stuff were you a fan of in this time frame?
Let me think of all my favorite horror movies, and I'll tell you if any came out in the 90s. No.
Or late 90s, early 2000s?
Nothing, man. I don't think I don't think there's a horror film I liked until Saw, maybe.
Okay.
Event Horizon was 90s, wasn't it?
It's not on my list.
Okay.
It's not something I go back to.
Yeah.
Okay.
When was Serpent in the Rainbow?
Oh. I think that might have been 90s.
Because that one's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some remakes. And there's a couple Jasons came out then.
Yeah.
I think Jason Goes to Manhattan. And then Jason 10 eventually in space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't count Friday the 13th Part 9 as anything of Friday the 13th at all, ever. I really loved Cabin Fever. I thought Cabin Fever was good. When did that come out? That's probably not then. That's probably... Cabin Fever didn't come out till 2012?
Yeah, I think that one was in the aughts. Maybe earlier, like 09 or...
I don't know, man. I can't answer that question correctly because I can't think of any movie that stood out to me from high school till...
And Joe's internet cut out again at this point, so we reconvened the next day and pick up where we left off. We had briefly talked about if there was anything in your adult life that you were a fan of in terms of horror, and
yeah, well, I had been thinking about that. We were talking about. I'll start over. Fuck. Hold on, sorry.
Yeah,
I started thinking about that, and I'm kind of glad I had a little bit of time because I was thinking, what really inspired me through my, mid-20s, and it had to have been movies like Dusk Till Dawn and, House of a Thousand Corpses, and let's see, what else was in that era? There's a lot of Japanese horror was coming out.
Oh, yeah.
I think,
Is that when... Men Behind the Sun was way before that, wasn't it?
I don't know. So, yeah, I think, some of that's influential, too. Clearly Dusk Till Dawn was a great horror comedy.
Yes, it was.
That kind of broke some barriers. So, yeah, so that's what inspired me, to push me into now, really, the catalyst. Okay. Because I remember seeing Dusk Till Dawn, and I was like... I remember I went with a group of friends. This had to be 2000. It's got to be 94, 97. Dusk Till Dawn.
I want to say no, but yeah, I think it is
97. I bet.
All right, so Cabin Fever, Dusk Till Dawn, House of a Thousand Corpses. I haven't seen House of a Thousand Corpses. Was there humor in that one? I didn't think so.
Well, Rob Zombie brings in a weird, grotesque kind of comedy.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
he's very. Look at Sid Haig and that kind of stuff. So it's that character, True. Captain Spaulding, and
True.
Sherry Moon Zombie picked a guy's nose with his severed hand.
Yeah.
That's comedy, right?
Yeah.
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
At this point now in your adult life, you did mention there was one person you worked with, but other than that, forming that relationship, did you have a group of friends who were now also horror enthusiasts, or still loaning it?
Yeah, I did. I worked with a couple people off and on, and they moved on with their lives, and I just kept going forward. And I didn't have a set team until Sorority of the Damn, really.
Okay.
And now I have a pretty solid team. I've been
Well, and I
building
don't
it
just
for a
mean like a
while.
work crew. I mean like friends.
No,
Although, okay.
I mean, yeah, I don't have like, no, man. These relationships in the film industry, they ignite this passion and then they burn out just as fast.
Hmm.
You know, you meet someone, you're like, you're fucking cool, you're cool, let's do something, make a project, blah 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 blah. That's done, and then when that kind of ends,
It's on to the next thing.
it's like, oh, I haven't talked to him in 6 months. I don't know what he's doing. Oh, he had a baby, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like that kind of thing. So
there is a social element, but it's kind of tenuous.
yeah, you make these quick little families that love it. You love each other for 30 days while you're making your movie, and then it slowly dissipates, and over months until the premiere again, you don't really talk to anyone. You don't like, you know.
Actually, you know what? Let's go back to some of the movies we just talked about,
Yeah.
because I realized there was something I forgot to ask.
Yeah.
So I know that none of this stuff scared you because you said that you didn't really have a fear element to it. But was there anything that excited you about these?
Yeah. What do you mean excited? Like, what do you mean like that?
Like
Was
the
there
other
anything
end of the
that you
spectrum
saw
from
that was like
something that scared you? Like, was there something you
Right.
saw that was cool, that intrigued you?
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. I mean, you know, Dusk Till Dawn had this retro kind of '80s feel to it, which I love. To use practical effects. I love practical effects. I hate CGI effects. I hate like when they did, you know, I Am Legend. You know, all that was all dumb. Those digital creatures and shit. That was so stupid.
Especially
It
the
pulls you
blood.
right
I
out
mean,
of the moment. You know.
yeah.
So
there's often, how can I say this? And sometimes both, but either people are afraid of things and they push away from one thing, which then pushes them towards something else, or they're drawn to something. And so if there was nothing that was a negative, pushing away from this, then I was thinking maybe there was a pull towards. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Dusk Till Dawn, retro 80s practical effects. So I'm guessing you haven't been participating in Halloween as an adult, although maybe with your kids.
Yeah, for sure with the kids. Yeah, absolutely, man. We dress up. Like I said, we dress up, man. Family kind of gets together and does a whole theme. You know.
Cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, we try. I try. The kids don't
Cool.
always want to do it. The last minute they'll change to a new costume. So
Yeah.
it's mainly for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Any odd or scary dreams as an adult?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, but I don't know if any of that's led me to becoming the writer or horror actor or anything. You know, I'm constantly having whacked out dreams, like shit that don't make any sense. Lamborghini.
Any reoccurring dreams?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
So actually, the next couple questions are looking back over your entire life as a whole. What would you say is your favorite movie? And then what's the movie that you've watched more times than any other?
It'd be the same movie, Big Trouble in Little China.
Ah, nice.
Yeah,
China is
that's even my
here.
Xbox handle is the Jack Burton.
Awesome.
Do you see any, other than comedy, because we've already touched on that, do you see any common threads about what kinds of horror you like? Cannibalism, occult, metaphysical, ghost stories, body horror?
I like supernatural stuff, and ghosts, goblins, werewolves, vampires, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I
Any idea
find that
why?
really fascinating, and that's what I strive to make. Idiots fighting witches and zombies and vampires and werewolves.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what you said you started off with when you were
Yeah.
making the films when you were a kid, right? It was like werewolves and vampires.
Any idea why you like those things?
No, man. I don't know. They're cool. They're neat. Werewolves are awesome.
Okay.
I think
answer.
they're better than vampires.
All right. So, I mean, really the only question left is why horror? And I think we kind of beat that one to death. We can't really crack that nut with you.
Well, all right.
Yeah, I mean, to expand on it, we usually ask, you can find these things that you like about horror in other genres like sci-fi or action. So why horror? But yeah, like Steve said, I think we kind of got to the root of that one early because horror.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Cool,
I
neat.
think, I think that my main draw is that it's more fun than most genres. You know what I mean? it is it's a fun genre to play around in. It's fun to watch other people do zombie films and werewolf movies, good or bad.
That's true. I guess of the genres, really, other
I don't
than
want to sit
straight
and watch
comedy.
my friend's romantic comedy. Even though I made one, I still don't want to watch it because it's like it's not anything I want to. I'm like I like the genre that I like, and will I make more other movies? Yeah, of course. Other than horror, yeah. If the opportunity presents itself, of course I will. I'm not going to say no to a job, you know. But my goal is to, house this horror comedy. Just nugget right into my pocket.
Yeah, and I suppose when you think about it, thinking about all the other genres, other than straight comedy, is there any other genre that allows you to incorporate comedy to the degree that horror does? I can't think of one.
Like sci-fi comedy or
there's rom-coms. Horror. The difference between sci-fi and horror is sci-fi involves some sort of scientific element in space.
It does, but the amount of sci-fi comedy is very small. True. I mean, the only one that I can think of is
Galaxy Quest.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's the only one I can think of.
2 words: Ice Pirates.
I said it.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah,
it's space herpes.
Yeah, the space herpes, bro.
Okay, that I've heard of.
My wife today.
Wait, what?
You got to watch it now. You gotta watch that. Sorry, I can't help you.
All I heard was something about space herpes and your wife. I said, wait, what?
Yeah. Ice pirates. There's space herpes. I was trying to explain the whole scene to my wife. Anyways, it's so weird that we brought it up.
Yeah. I thought space comedy, and that's the first one that my mind went to for some reason.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, Red Dwarf, there's that. But even, other than those, I can't think of anything that really incorporates comedy like horror
whenever
does.
everybody thinks sci-fi, for it to be successful, they think it has to be serious, like it has to be a dramatic experience.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there are moments of levity in sci-fi stuff, but like we're saying, not really to the degree that you can have a horror comedy. True. Like every other 5 minutes or 30 seconds dropping a joke.
Right.
So comedy it is, I guess. Before we wrap the call, do you want to pitch anything on the way out?
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely. I would like, everyone can check out.
I'm just going to give his Oscar speech.
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone.
My English teacher.
Award. Yeah, no, man. As we're wrapping up, I'd like everyone to check out South of Central. That's right on YouTube. You can go check out South of Central. It's a comedy series, 13 episodes that we produced here in St. Pete. And that's a fun little thing. And then Sorority of the Dam is coming out very soon. And then I got this high school thriller called Beauty is Skin Deep on Amazon Prime right now. So, and that's a fun little movie. Not a lot of comedy, not a lot of blood, more drama and high schooly things. But
I was just gonna say, you did say high school.
Yeah, it was a fun shoot. And it was a good cast, and I appreciated what people brought and how dedicated our actresses and actresses were, and they paid off. It's on Amazon, so that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, what's wrong with that?
So South of Central, and then Sorority of the Dam, and Beauty is Skin Deep. I'm all and then I have books and stuff online too.
Busy man
as well. Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. I had a blast. Sorry that not that the audience will know it took 2 days to do this, but that's all right.
Yeah, right.
Well, they do now. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's a Patreon.
Thanks, guys. I had a fun for this hour.
Yes, it was a good time in one day.
Yes.
Yes. Right.
Well, thank you for being our guest.
You guys are great. Thank you so much. If you need something again, man, I'm here. Just hit me up.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah.
And thank you to anybody out there listening. Again, please do come visit us at horrormakesushappy.com. We've got a list there of people we'd like to interview and who we plan to interview. If there's anybody you'd like to see added to the list, or you can help us get in touch with somebody on the list, let us know. Other than that, just hit us up on social media. Let us know how we're doing. horrormakesushappy.com.